You're listening to The Tales We Tell, a podcast about spooky stories, unsolved mysteries, and local lore. I'm your host, Hannah Parch.
And I'm Katy.
Welcome back!
I was so worried I was going to sound weird, and I do.
It's okay.
Life is hard.
It is. But we have cake.
Yeah, lemon cake makes it all the bit much better.
And I have a present for you.
A present for me, by the way.
It's an extra baby shower present because I got inspired.
Well, I already wrote out your thank you card. It's just at my office, and I haven't been to my office for like a week and a half.
It's fine. I'll just be extremely offended.
All right. I'll write you a second one. I like the rainbow striped gum wrapping paper.
Thank you. It's technically Christmas wrapping paper, but it's for all occasions.
Oh my gosh! This is fantastic. The ABCs of biology.
I really wanted an ABCs of pharmacology, but they don't make those.
Well, not yet. We should make one. Oh, he got all excited. Yay! This is so cute. E is for ecosystem. Oh my gosh. I'm going to read this one all the time.
Yeah, so now he gets... And I read it first to, make sure it was all kosher. And I learned some things.
Glucose. Yes.
A couple words I can't pronounce, so you might be smarter than me. / I know he will... Like, what's that one?
Jejunum?
Jejunum.
I think, or jejunum.
Sure.
I'm not sure. I didn't do too much. I mean, I did take some anatomy, but not a lot. But
the jejunum is the middle part of your small intestines.
All right, then. Yeah,
apparently this author has a whole series of, STEM-centered baby books, which I kind of love. And there's one, I'm trying to remember, because there were a couple different ones that I was leaning towards, and I finally ended on biology was the best one.
I like how varied this is, too. Because
I know.
Biology is already just, a big world to begin with. But, V is for virus. W is for wood.
I know.
W is for there's, wood. T is for temporal lobe, and then Q is for queen, as in queen bee.
Yeah.
R is for retina. O is for ossification.
The P one I thought was going to be a little confusing because they used the PH. P is for photosynthesis. Uh-huh. Might confuse a baby who is thinking P's, who doesn't know about the PH sounds yet. But I figured you can get to that. It'd be a good learning opportunity.
Yeah, we'll make sure we don't stumble on that one.
Yeah, in a couple months when he's like, why is photosynthesis spelled with a P? Then you can have that talk with him.
Better than P is for pterodactyl.
That would be so good. Oh my gosh, I'm going to see if she has a dinosaur one.
This is great. Yeah. No, funny with glucose, people are always like, oh, do you have any weird cravings or anything like that? Nothing weird. Literally just sugar. Give me glucose, fructose, or sucrose. I will take sugar in any of its forms. And then people look at me weird and I'm like, yeah. I want fruit, so fructose.
Yeah.
And then there's glucose and sucrose and...
I saw a recipe for... Prosecco and vodka grapes. Oh my gosh, they look so good. I might make them this weekend. Means I probably need to go get some vodka before tomorrow. But you soak them overnight and then you roll them in sugar. I also have been craving cantaloupe since your baby shower because we made those little fruit things and Jarek magically got the most perfectly ripe cantaloupe and so I was like, do it again, hun.
You're the cantaloupe master.
No, the next one we got was
No.
Also, I'm having a creamer crisis. I need to put this out into the world in case anyone knows how to help me. I like one specific kind of creamer for my coffee. It is International Delight Southern Butter Pecan. And for some reason, this region is out of it. Just that flavor.
Yeah, because you're looking for pecans.
Okay, I usually
Should
say...
be pecans.
I usually say southern butter pecan, and then people give me shit for it, so...
Not me, because I say things right.
I have been to every grocery store in the area. I have been to 2 Walmarts. I've been to 3 Food Lions. I've been to Publix. I know the pig isn't going to have them, but...
It's amazing what the random shortages are out there.
Oh.
Like, several weeks ago, I wanted to make this spanakopita grilled cheese.
Mm-hmm.
Completely wiped out of cream cheese.
Yeah.
Of all kinds. I think there was, like, 1 or 2 of, like, the whipped, like, garlic and herb or something. And then there might have been 1 other tub of another flavored.
Yeah.
But there was nothing. It was all gone. It wasn't just, like, plain cream cheese was all gone. It was all of it.
Yeah.
And then what they did have was cream cheese style spread. And so I'm like, it says it's perfect for cooking and baking, which I'm going to be doing, so well, let's try it. It worked out fine.
Okay, great. Well, we also have cake because we are recording our 100th episode. Yay for us. I figured
100 and 101?
Yep, this is a 2-parter, and spoiler, we're going to be recording both of them in the same... Not the same sitting, because we will be getting up in between.
I'm actually probably going to get up and walk around for a second in just a minute.
It's totally fine.
My feet fell asleep.
Oh, no. Oh, my gosh.
I have problems.
Katy's having a rough go. And, well, this episode, these two aren't, like, super, super bad, so I'm not going to make it worse by making you feel terrible. Okay, so this is, like we said, a 2-parter, and we are going to be talking about the West Memphis 3.
Interesting.
You heard of them?
Nope.
Okay, great.
I don't think I have.
So there's 2 really good documentaries that I watched for part of this. One is on Discovery Plus, which I found out I get a 6-month free subscription to.
Sweet.
And the other one, I think, is on Amazon is where I watched it. You may have to pay like $1.99 for it. And one is called The West Memphis 3 and one is called West of Memphis. They're both very good. They both interview, like, heavily the people who are directly involved. So, okay. First things first, West Memphis is in...
Tennessee.
Arkansas. So, our story takes place, it starts on May 5th, 1993, in West Memphis, Arkansas.
Honestly, all of, like, West Tennessee can pretty much be in a different state if it wants to.
Tennessee is a very long state.
Yeah, it's like 3 different states in one. West Tennessee, Middle Tennessee, and East Tennessee are so drastically different, not just geographically, but by culturally as well.
Well, North Carolina is kind of the same way.
Yeah, kind of. Because, but we're just west and east.
Yeah, those middle people don't count.
Yeah, they tend to pick a side.
Yeah. Okay, May 5th, 1993, Stevie Branch, who is 8 years old, came home from school and told his mom that he had finished his homework at school already. And he wanted to go play. So around 3:30, his friend Michael Moore, who's also 8, came over, and they both asked Stevie's mom, whose name was Pam Hobbs, if they could go out and play. At first, she was like, no. But they begged her, as 8-year-old boys do. And finally, she's like, fine, go play, just be home by 4:30. So
I was going to say by the streetlights.
I don't know. She had to work late that night. Like, she had, like, an evening job, so I guess she just wanted to make sure they were home, like...
Home and settled before she took out.
So, the boys go play, and a little while later, their friend Chris Byers, who's also 8, comes over and asks Pam if Stevie could come play, and she's like, him and Michael are already out, go find them.
Get out of my house, you little brats.
Go. So, Pam's husband, Terry, comes home. Terry is Stevie's stepdad, which is why they have different last names. Mm-hmm. And he takes Pam to work. And around 9 o'clock, Terry goes to pick Pam up for work. And when he does, he says Stevie had not come home. So it turns out that none of the boys had come home that night. Chris Byers' dad, whose name is John Mark, I don't know if he goes by that, but they always called him John Mark. John Mark had been the first one to call the police around 8 o'clock to report their son missing. And Terry said that he had started looking for the boys around 5 when Stevie hadn't come home at 4:30 when he was supposed to.
That seemed like a reasonable time for me, especially in, when did you say this was 93?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like,
Maybe they're
4:35. The boys probably don't have watches.
Yeah.
So, like, we'll give them a little bit of leeway, because that's how I was.
Yeah.
You know, as a kid, when I'd go play in the abandoned lot with all my neighborhood friends.
Yeah. And they're 8. It's not like they're, like, at the mall. Like, you know, they're probably
I
around.
was literally down the street.
Yeah. So, John Mark, he had started looking around 6, I guess, when Chris hadn't come home. A couple parents are looking, and then John Mark calls the police around 8 to, like, officially report it. So, Officer Regina Meeks gets the call, and she goes over to the buyer's house and talks to Chris's parents, gets kind of all the information, and then she goes out to, like, look for them. And on her way out, she gets another call that is coming from, I love this, both documentaries kept saying, a local fast food chain. And then they would clarify, Bojangles. You could just say it was coming from the Bojangles.
Well, you know, Bojangles isn't countrywide. It'd be one thing if it was McDonald's or something.
I
or
forget
Wendy's.
Bojangles isn't countrywide.
Well, I mean, you know, Rallies
Never
versus
heard of
Checkers.
Never heard of either of those. No, I have heard of Checkers.
And then there's Hardy. It's Hardee's over here, but it's Carl's Jr. out west.
Oh, yeah. That's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Bojangles is like
very much out here.
Yeah. It's like a Cajun... I'm not even going to call it a Cajun chicken. It's a chicken place.
Yeah. It's like a Chick-fil-A.
Yeah. But...
with more spice.
Yeah. So...
it's like if Chick-fil-A and Popeyes had a weird baby.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. And they serve breakfast all day. You can get breakfast biscuits all day. They serve Bowberry biscuits, which are the best. On Valentine's Day, they served heart-shaped Bowberry biscuits.
Well, I missed out on that.
I did too, but...
I think I've been craving a biscuit lately.
Just a plain biscuit?
Well, we had to go out somewhere, drove by Bojangles the other day, and I'm like, I think I want a biscuit. Chilton's like, do you want a biscuit? I can get you a biscuit. And I was like, I said I want a biscuit. I don't need a biscuit. I'm trying to behave here. And then, of course, we're almost home and we pass the Wendy's. And I'm like, oh, I really want Wendy's. And he's like, do you want some Wendy's? I get you some Wendy's. I'm like, no, you're cooking me a healthy meal. I want Wendy's. I don't need Wendy's.
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe I'll get it tomorrow since you'll be at work and not cooking for me. So
no one needs Wendy's.
No. Trying to make healthy choices.
Oh, it's hard. I'm just feeding you cake here. Okay, so the Bojangles calls, and Regina gets this call, and she's like, ugh, I'm trying to look for this missing kid. I'll go by the Bojangles real quick and see what they need, but I'm not going to go inside. I'm just going to go through the drive-thru and take the statement, which seems really unprofessional, but...
So I'm also confused about how she's getting a call from the Bojangles. Like, is it someone called the police station?
Yes.
And they patched her into, like, her car or something?
I think so, yeah. From the accounts that I read, it's like she is the only officer working that night, because I don't know why another one couldn't go to the Bojangles and take care of it, but...
Sure, yeah.
Regina's probably like, ugh, gotta do everything myself. So she goes through the drive-thru and talks to the manager, who tells her that a little while ago a man had come into the restaurant acting strange and covered in blood and mud. And he had locked himself in the women's bathroom. And
sure.
And he had left before Officer Meeks had arrived and walked off into the woods behind the restaurant. But he had left a pair of sunglasses and also a bunch of blood in the bathroom.
Cool.
And so Officer Meeks is like, all right, I'll file this away, and leaves. Doesn't go inside.
Didn't process the crime scene at all.
She's just like, all right, cool, I'll make a note of it. Goodbye.
You don't find it a little suspicious that on the night that 3 boys go missing, a crazy man comes in covered in mud and blood?
Yeah, well, and to be fair... so
like, I wouldn't necessarily connect the two, but, like...
Yeah, I mean, they'll get to it eventually, but...
I'd at least want to process the crime scene, or, like, call it into the crime scene.
Well, she's the only one working. She's like,
apparently.
Priorities. And, like, to her credit, she only knows that Chris is missing right now. And I think in her head, she's like, this kid is priority number 1. Mm-hmm. We'll worry about the weird situation. I mean, I also have to imagine that this is not the first time that something weird has happened at Bojangles.
I mean, yeah, it could be, you know, maybe he's a hunter or something. Mm-hmm. And maybe he's been out hunting all day and then did some field processing or something, and he's just a weird dude.
And goes into the women's bathroom at the Bojangles.
Yeah, no, I mean, it could just be that he's a little disturbed and was just hunting and, like, because, you know, in the South, that's normal, whatever.
Yeah. So, Officer Meeks goes on her way. It's like, all right, I'm on a mission. And then at 9:24, they give her another call. This is from Todd and Dana Moore, who are Michael's parents. And they say, our son Michael didn't come home. So Regina now goes over to their house and talks to them. Multiple neighbors reported seeing all three boys together riding their bikes around 5:30 or 6. So they're able to kind of like...
Well, they're already past their curfew.
Yeah. So they've kind of now established, like, okay, all the boys are missing. By that night, by like later in the night, they have neighbors and police looking for the boys. I guess just maybe one police officer. I'm assuming she's the only one working. And they don't find anything, but also, to be fair, it's not like an organized search. Mm-hmm. It's just like word of mouth, and it's dark, and it's muggy, and like it's hard to like do anything when it's disorganized, you know? Yeah.
Well, hopefully they're still kind of canvassing the neighborhood, trying to get all those witness statements of like, hey, have you seen these boys?
Right. So the parents all have to go to bed that night, not knowing where their children are.
Yeah, nope, I would not be going to bed that night.
And the following morning, they resume the search in a more organized fashion around 8 a.m. So this is May 6th. Police and volunteers cover all of West Memphis, but they focus mainly on an area called Robin Hood Hills, which is where the boys had last been seen. And it was also kind of like it was like a wooded area, but it was close to like the neighborhood. So it was just a popular place for like kids to go like adventure, you know?
It's just an undeveloped area within the neighborhood.
Yes. Yeah. And the volunteers make like a human chain and like go across this big field looking for any clues. They don't find anything. I figured now's a good time to show you pictures of the kiddos.
Ugh, are they going to be adorable?
Yes, they're all adorable, and they're all adorably 90s children.
Oh my gosh, they are.
I know. Like that kid on the right, I think that's Chris. I'm not actually sure. I know the middle one is Stevie, the blonde one. Like, I swear I went to school with this kid.
I actually did go to school with a kid named Chris Byers.
Oh. Yeah. Probably not this one, though.
Nope. Yeah, and then, of course, the left one is a freaking Cub Scout.
I know, and they said that he always, like, he loved wearing his Cub Scout uniform, and so he'd wear it, like, all the time.
Oh, he was one of those.
I know. So freaking precious. Can we also talk just about Stevie's picture and that cool background that he got?
Yeah, that's definitely straight 90s right there.
He looks like he's in, like, a rollerblading commercial.
Yeah.
Very cute.
I'm also looking at that like, oh my gosh, that's Carver, my critter, and Connor and Bianca's critter.
Yeah, and
all three of them are going to be buddies.
Ooh. Okay.
I guess mine will be Stevie, because the blonde one.
And because, you know, he'll be a
I'm going to raise him to be a 90s kid.
A rollerblader, and, you know, we'll take cool pictures. So, this search is going on. Meanwhile, there is a woman named Vicky Hutchinson who is being interviewed by police for an unrelated manner. I read that she had been accused of stealing from her employer, and she was supposed to be given a polygraph to find out if polygraphs come up a lot in this, and I'm not gonna.
I think I remember it was like a cool technology.
Yeah, and we don't have time to go into like the problems with it. Just
I wonder when it became that. Like when that shift was though, from like we're gonna take a polygraph to we can do a polygraph but it's not admissible in court. So.
Yeah, they don't really mean anything. But they're like, all right, we're gonna give you a polygraph to see if you stole, I guess. But she has her young son Aaron with her, who is friends with Stevie, Michael, and Chris, and he was being so disruptive that they couldn't do the polygraph.
8-year-old brat.
I just can only imagine they're like sitting there trying to do this, and this kid is just like running around the room, like, and someone's like, "Oh my gosh, is there no one who can watch this child?" So Aaron's being really disruptive, and at one point he randomly blurts out that the missing boys had been killed, at a place that he calls the Playhouse, which he said was near Robin Hood Hills. So this is like completely unrelated. Like there's a search going on, and then Vicky is being like, so hold on.
And this kid's just like, hey, missing boys have been murdered.
Yeah. Oh,
tra-la-la-la-la. Let me go back to like knocking over furniture and pretending I'm an airplane.
Yeah, it's very strange. So that's happening. No one knows this except the people in that room. And so, meanwhile, there is a West Memphis juvenile corrections officer named Steve Jones who is part of the search. He's kind of held back a little bit, so he's searching on his own in the Robin Hood Hills area. And he looks into a drainage ditch and he sees a black shoe floating in the water. And it is a child's black shoe. And this is around 1:45 in the afternoon. So Jones calls for backup, and Sergeant Mike Allen was one of the first officers to show up to help. And Allen volunteers to get in the water to look around. And he's like, I mean, this doesn't matter, but he's like in his like slacks and dress shirt, and he just climbs into this drainage ditch. As he's moving around, his foot dislodges something, and something floats up to the surface, and it is the body of Michael Moore. He is naked and covered in bruises, and he's hogtied ankle to wrist with his shoelaces.
You said this wasn't going to be a rough one.
This part's a little rough. By definition, every episode's a little rough. This isn't...
You're a liar.
I'm not that much of a liar. Have another piece of cake.
Oh, I will. You betcha.
So the police now have to figure out how to search the rest of the water because it's a drainage ditch. Like, it's murky water. Mm-hmm. And an officer...
The kind of water I get to play with a lot.
Yeah, so this is like your job. See, it relates.
I can't tell you how many times I've actually been out sampling in a place and been like, man, I really don't hope to find a body today.
I feel like that'd be one of the things where we'd be like, well, this is the day I have to quit, I guess. Like,
it wouldn't be enough to make me quit. It's for me, it's more of like the hassle of the complication.
Oh my gosh.
Like oh man.
Now I've
got to call the police and the sample I've already collected. Like I got to wait till they get here. I'm going to have to give a statement. It's going to be a whole thing. I've got to hold time on my samples. I've got to get them to the lab. Otherwise the whole day was a freaking waste.
Oh my gosh. When I used to work at a daycare, I said that the day I had to perform CPR on a child was the day I would quit. Because we had to take that class. And I was like, nope. The day I have to do this, I walk out of here. Cause, I mean, I'll do it, obviously. But, like, then I'm not coming back. Because, no, thank you. I haven't figured out what my current level is for, like... I thought it was when, like, adult human poop came into the picture. But that's already happened. And
you're still there.
Quit. I'm still there, so...
I guess if it was your job for me, I think it'd be someone with, like, their eye hanging out or something. I'd be like, nope, wrong office. You've got to go to the ER with that nonsense.
Yeah. All right, so officers have to figure out how to search the water. So an officer named Brian Ridge, suddenly everyone's working today, by the way. It was just Regina yesterday. Officer Brian Ridge volunteers to do this, and as he is slowly going through the water, he finds a branch that's sticking straight up, and when he pulls it out, he finds that there are a child's t-shirt that's been, like, kind of wrapped around it and then stuck in the mud. And I think they found other pieces of clothes like this, but I couldn't find specifics. Then he finds the body of Stevie Branch, and it is very similar in condition to Michael's body. It's also naked and tied with the shoelaces. One of the documentaries did say that Stevie's face had one side of it that was, like, gouged out. And then they find Christopher Byers, and he's in the same condition, except his genitals have been mutilated. So, that's the worst of it in terms of, like, describing
Can I tell myself it was all post-mortem?
Yes, you can.
Are you going to tell me otherwise?
We're going to get to it, okay?
Everyone take a drink.
Okay, so the police assume that this is, like, the crime scene, like, where they were killed. But there is not any blood anywhere. Which, granted, it's, like, a wet area, but... And so... Oh, I forgot. This part's actually kind of bad. they recover all the bodies, and then, like, immediately after that, they make a statement to the press, and this is actually how their families found out.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
We've been over this before.
Yeah.
This is not how you do things, small town police.
So bad. In the West Memphis 3 documentary, Pam Hobbs, there's, like, footage. She, like, faints when she hears the news. Because they're all gathered as this, like, search party.
Well, yeah, like, you know, it makes sense that the families would all be together because all of their children are missing together. And
yeah. And, yeah, so Pam faints. There's just the footage is... I mean, because you hear... I don't know if it's Pam or one of the other moms, but you just hear this, like, wailing, and it's just, like, dude, don't you... I don't know. Can you, like, call them aside before you announced it?
Please, I just hope that they didn't give too many details of...
Yeah, I don't think they did.
Okay, good, because those details...
Yep. But still,
the family should have been notified first.
Absolutely.
They should have been warned. We found your sons. They are deceased.
Dead. Yeah.
And then you can let the press know.
Yeah.
The rest of the world is not as important as these boys' parents.
Like, even just... I don't know. Okay, so the coroner says that it looks like at least 2 out of the 3 boys had been sexually assaulted. He ruled the cause of death. Christopher died from multiple injuries, and Michael and Stevie died from multiple injuries and drowning.
They were dumped there before they were fully dead.
Yes.
They were probably, beaten, I guess. And...
Yeah. So, they also determined that Christopher's injuries, specifically the mutilation, had been caused by a knife and that he had been intentionally castrated. And they also found that Christopher was the only one to have drugs in his system, and he had carbamazepine. Carbamazepine.
That's probably closest.
And here we are going to stop for Shelton's Criminal Pharmacology Corner.
Oh, you did text him
about
this.
I did text him, and he actually didn't get back to me about the other part.
Sounds like him.
But according to Shelton, who is a actual pharmacist, this is the extent of my research on it.
Dr. Shelton.
Carbamazepine.
Yeah, that sounds like it would be right.
Is a stimulant that is used as an anti-epileptic medication and a mood stabilizer. Christopher had a prescription for Ritalin, which is kind of a depressant because it's for ADHD. And his dad couldn't confirm if he had taken his Ritalin in the morning. The drug that they found in his system is
Carbamazepine?
There you go.
That's what you've been saying.
I know. There's too many syllables. It's not one of, like, the 8 that I say on a daily basis. It's very different than Ritalin, and it's strange that it would be in his system.
It'd be a weird combo.
Yes. My other question to Shelton was, how long does it last in your system? And he said, I'll get back to you on that. And then he never did. And I've seen him more than once since I reminded him about it.
I remember at the shower.
Oh, he's actually what inspired me to get the ABCs of biology. Because I wanted the ABCs of pharmacology, and he has to write that himself.
Yeah. We'll put him to work on that. I'm sure he'll get right on it and not at all be forgetful or need reminding.
Penance for not getting back to the important research question that I probably could have Googled. You have to write a book.
Which I think it's funny, too, that... I don't know much about Ritalin itself, but if Ritalin is a depressant, it's kind of weird because the medicine that I take for my ADHD is an amphetamine, basically. Yeah. Which is why I can't be taking it right now.
Yeah.
Weird. Like, one seems like an upper, the other seems like a downer,
yeah.
but I don't know. I'm not a...
It's also 1993, though, and I feel like Ritalin was, like, basically the only drug they had for ADD.
Yep.
Because...
Ritalin and Adderall.
Yeah. Like, I know a lot of people who took it in the 90s as kids and hated it, and... like, don't want to go back on ADD drugs because of their bad experience on it.
Yeah, I think, with, like, the Ritalin, I think it really did, like, dampen kids and, like, kind of dull them.
Yeah.
And that's what my Wellbutrin kind of did to me, and I did not like it. And, because I'm so much better, like, I thought being pregnant, I was going to be a wreck. I was going to be unmedicated, pregnancy hormones. But, other than feeling miserable a lot of the time, physically.
I was going to say, we literally just took a break because you felt so shitty.
Physically. But emotionally and mentally, I feel great. I feel the best that I've had in years. I mean, for the most part. But then, I think with, like, Adderall, Vyvanse, Strattera, some of the other, like, newer ADHD, I think those are actually, like, stimulants.
Yeah.
Because, I don't drink coffee very often. But when I do, it doesn't make me hyper. It allows me to just kind of focus.
Yeah.
It actually kind of, like, calms my brain down a little bit, whereas other people are like, da-da-da-da-da, coffee.
Yeah.
I'm all jittery, and I'm like, I'm good. I'm just going to be mellow and do my thing and get work done. So, anyway.
Must be nice to have coffee.
Yeah, it must be nice. Miss, oh, poor me, I can't find my creamer. Meanwhile, I can't have anything.
It's a real struggle.
I told Shelton that when we get home after the critter is born, I'm sending him to the sushi restaurant, and I'm like, you are gonna spend a lot of money on sushi and bring it home to me. And he's like, done happily. And the one restaurant in town that has like the literal boat.
Yep.
He's like, bring me the boat.
Bring it.
Sorry for all the distractions
That's
today.
okay. Okay, so the way that the boys were found tied up was reminiscent of POWs. So the police kind of briefly explored the idea that an ex-military person had done it. But then a couple things started to lock together in their minds. So they determined that the bodies and the clothes had been intentionally stuck in the mud. Bodies obviously aren't going to stay on the bottom.
They float.
Clothes are going to float, and the clothes had been kind of pushed down. So they're like, all right, someone is intentionally trying to conceal these bodies in the water. They hadn't found any blood. And then they found out that the crimes had happened on a full moon. And so obviously it was a satanic cult. Everyone take a drink.
Satanic panic.
You ready to get kind of pissed off?
I'm always. That's my secret. I'm always angry.
Always angry. So the police are like, all right.
My blood pressure is good. I can afford to raise it a few points today. It's fine.
So the police are like, okay, obviously this is a satanic murder. So first thing we need to do, find anyone with a criminal background who might be involved in Satanism. So they literally asked a juvenile corrections officer named Jerry Driver, hey, do you know any people on probation who might be interested in the occult? And he's like, yes. There's a kid named Damien Eccles. Damien was 18 at the time. And Jerry said that he believed Damien was, quote, capable of murdering children based on nothing. So Damien was a high school dropout who lived in a trailer park with his mother and sister. He grew up pretty poor, was pretty well acquainted with their social worker, but it's Arkansas in the 90s. Like, that's not uncommon, I think.
I imagine this is a rural area, too, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a disadvantaged child.
Yes. And although I think he had a pretty good relationship, like, with his mom, at least. In 1992, he had spent some time in a psychiatric hospital in Little Rock to be treated for major depression, which, hello, not, like, good for him for having depression, but, like, I'm very proud of young people who, like, get help for mental illnesses early because waiting until your 30s isn't necessarily ideal. And also, like, major depression, again, I feel like a normal thing in teenagers.
I mean, if it was just him and his mom, and he's in a trailer park, and he's got some, issues with the law or whatever, with the social worker, it could be one of those things that he's probably a smart kid.
Yeah.
And he's just stuck in this unfortunate situation that, he just doesn't have access to resources and things that would make him fine.
Yes.
I mean, we're assuming a lot about this kid.
Well, we'll get into it because he actually reminds me of someone that I know, and I will explain as we get further in. And I mean it as a compliment, I swear.
Oh, crap.
So he was in a psychiatric hospital he was sent there because while he was at a detention center, he allegedly, at some point, for some reason, sucked the blood of another inmate. I don't think that he caused an injury to do this. I think, like, I mean, it wasn't like a...
He didn't stab someone to drink their blood.
No.
Someone got a cut, and he was like, I wonder.
Yeah. He also had threatened to kill his father at some point, which I also get the impression he didn't have a great relationship with his father. Again, doesn't sound super uncommon to me for a teenager. He received disability benefits from Social Security after that. I also read that he was, like, holding down a part-time job, like, at this time. He had previously been arrested for breaking and entering. It was like him and his girlfriend went out and broke into, like, an abandoned house, and they got caught. Like, it's not like he was breaking into a home to burglarize it.
Yeah.
Just
being a kid.
Yeah, I'm like, who hasn't broken into an abandoned property? Jarek and I literally documented us doing it and put it on our damn website.
I think I've told that story a couple of times already.
Yeah, like, it's
me in college.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you're not hurting anyone, you're not damaging anything, whatever.
No ill intent.
Yeah. He always wore a long black trench coat and boots.
Going through a phase.
Yeah, and his mother, who maintains that he was a really good kid, she had a really, in my opinion, adorable explanation for his wardrobe. She said that she thinks a girl had told him one time that he looked really sexy in all black. And so he just kept wearing it after that.
It makes sense.
I know!
I can totally see a teenage boy, like, running with that.
Yes, I know. He really liked alien movies, and he was really interested in Catholicism, and eventually became interested in Wicca, which now is a good time to point out. Wicca is famously not evil or, like, Satan-based at all.
It's just another religion.
Yeah, and this truly, to me, feels like, you know how you go through a phase of being, like, obsessed with something as a teenager?
Absolutely.
Yeah, like, this was his thing.
All too well.
Like, he wasn't, like, a practicing Catholic. He was just, like, really interested in, like, all the weird shit about it.
Yeah. Because there's a lot more than you learn in Sunday school with Catholicism.
And, like, it's borderline occult.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry, the officer who was like, I think he's capable of murdering children, I guess with a search warrant, had Damien's belongings.
No, you don't. He's just a kid that has had some trouble.
Who just has different interests than you.
Yeah, that you might think is a little weird because he dresses in black.
Yeah,
like,
and...
What, because he's not the star of the football team? He's capable of murdering children?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Genuinely, this is the most... We'll get into... Literally the rest of the episode is, like, about how Damien's a normal, or, like, a decent person. So, his belongings were searched and seized, and they find various books and notebooks. And on May 7th, so the day after they find the bodies, they bring Damien in for an interview, and they give him a polygraph, which...
Of course they do.
Yeah. Indicated deception, apparently.
And how old is he at this time? I'm sorry.
18.
Okay.
Officer Driver also noted that when Damien came in, he had the word evil written across his knuckles, and he was wearing a pentagram necklace, which he told them was representation of his Wiccan beliefs.
Oh my gosh. I've seen this kid 50 times in Hot
Right?
Topic.
And it's like, okay, Damien, maybe not the best to be, like, writing with Sharpie the word evil on your knuckles when you're going in for a police interview, but, like, poor judgment on your part, but, like, also not criminal. This episode of The Tales We Tell is brought to you by the Crafty Criminologist. Do you love cute and creepy stationery and stickers? What about ghoulish earrings and adorable ghosts? Then check out The Crafty Criminologist on Etsy and Instagram. She makes stickers, jewelry, study guides, and more. Just go to Etsy.com and search @CraftyCriminologist, and be sure to use code TheTalesWeTell at checkout for 15% off your order. That's TheTalesWeTell for 15% off.
For the adorable pictures of the boys and other goodies, you can go to our Instagram. It's the Tales We Tell podcast. If you don't do the social media, that's the same on Facebook. If you don't do the social media but you still want to see pictures, you can go to our website. It's thetaleswetellpodcast.com. If you want to support us, get yourself some sweet, sweet swag. You can go to redbubble.com/the tales we tell. And also, if you want to support us without the stuff, but with the bonus stuff and maybe the stickers and sweet notes that Hannah forges my name on, you can become a patron at patreon.com and just search the tales we tell.
Yes. You can also see pictures from my dad's trip to Scotland on the Loch Ness post. He tried to upload them and they didn't work, and so he emailed them to me, and so I posted them. But he reminded me, him and my mom went to Scotland in 2004, and there's some pictures of Loch Ness. Also on May 7th, the manager of the local Bojangles was like, hey, wait a minute. Wait a minute, excuse me. We had a weird guy in here with blood on him.
Yeah, how come nobody's followed up on that? We haven't been able to clean our women's bathroom in ages.
So they call again, and they're like, hey, just a friendly reminder. A guy came in here covered in blood, and then, like, the next day you guys found 3 dead children. So, Officer Brian Ridge...
At least the Bojangles knows what's up.
I know!
Like, I can understand, maybe our poor one officer working that night trying to solve all the crimes. Poor Regina. I could understand her, maybe missing the potential connection.
Yeah.
Because she's focused on finding missing children.
Yeah. And she's overworked, obviously.
And she's just, getting bounced from here to there to everywhere. Like, first it's one missing kid call, and then it's the Bojangles, and then the other parents are now, you gotta interview them. Like, I can understand her missing the connection or potential connection there. Yeah. But really, especially by the time the boys are found...
Yeah.
These things should start being connected.
Yeah. Well, I mean, famously, this guy didn't come in wearing a pentagram and a goat's head. So, how were they to know? So Officer Ridge, who was, I believe, the one who found the bodies. Let me make sure. Yes, so Officer Ridge is the one who volunteered to go in and, actually recover the bodies. He goes to the Bojangles and he collects samples of the blood that had been left behind. Allegedly...
So they really hadn't cleaned it since... Like, how much time has passed?
2 days.
Oh, okay.
I think they said that, some blood was still left.
Mm-hmm.
So they, kind of cleaned it, but, obviously not the way that
they probably... fast food restaurant cleaned it.
Yeah, not the way you should be handling a biohazard.
And criminal evidence.
Yeah. So, allegedly, the man had been wearing a, quote, blue cast type of brace on his arm that had white Velcro on it. No idea why the colors of those things were important, but police believed that this would have made it difficult for him to have tied up the boys. Which I want to point out, the fact that it has Velcro on it means that you can remove it pretty easily. I
have to sleep in wrist splints. That are Velcro, the exact same thing. Only mine are black on black with a little bit of gray detailing. Not blue and white. Blue and white sounds like it came from a medical office or something.
I'm imagining that you also have a CPAP and a mouth guard.
I am a freaking mess, man. I actually, because, I already struggle to sleep just in general. It's really hard to sleep when you have to get up every hour or so to pee.
Yeah.
It's even more difficult to sleep when you've got these uncomfortable wrist things on, so that messes it up. And on top of all of that, now I can't breathe. So I'm like, all right, well, I have to choose between slightly, the potential for sleep or slightly improved sleep and pain in my hands and wrists in the morning, or probably no sleep at all whatsoever.
Right.
And less pain in my wrists and hands in the morning. So carpal tunnel took a backseat to respiratory issues this week.
I gotcha. I know that a lot of this is because you're pregnant and also sick, but
falling apart, y'all.
It's how did you get pregnant? I mean that in the most loving way, obviously, but you are describing a really unsexy bedtime scene for you.
That's why I've been in bed by myself all week. No, because I'm sick.
No, it's because Shelton loves you. And I'm sure that sometimes you take off the wrist brace.
See, he did. He literally just texted me to tell me that he loves me.
Aw, sweet man. Jarek hasn't texted me to see if I'm doing okay. Oh, man. Okay. Oh.
And I was sexy in my prime. Back in my day, I had it going on before I had the belly.
8 months ago.
8 months ago, I look good.
You still look good.
A mess.
Listen, we all have...
I was told there would be glowing. There's been no glowing.
We all have those nights where you just want to do your skincare routine and put on your comfy pajamas and have no one touch you at all and put on the sleep mask and put on your headband because your dog chewed up your regular headphones and just sit there and sleep and go unconscious. And then there's nights where you put on something nice and, you know. Okay, you can be both, okay? That's what I'm saying.
Can I be that first person that doesn't put on the something fancy, but like 24/7?
Sure.
Because that's been me and will be for the next 4 weeks or less.
And possibly the next several years.
After that, too.
Oh, man. Okay, so Officer Ridge goes and collects these blood samples. Then he loses them, and they were never tested.
Oh, God. Oh, my God.
There's literally footage of him on the witness stand, and the defense is like, so...
how did you lose these?
When were they tested? And he's like, oh, they weren't tested. I lost them. And he's like, I'm sorry, what? And he's like, oh, yep, that was my mistake. I lost a piece of evidence. It's like, I'm sorry.
And where was the formal reprimand for that? Because I'm pretty sure that losing evidence is a big deal.
Yeah, in a murder case.
Yes. Well, I mean, it wasn't officially tied to the murder case yet, right? It was its own separate case.
Right. But still,
evidence in any case.
This poor Bojangles is like, we're really trying to do our best.
We're trying to help solve a triple homicide here. You guys just keep messing it up.
So it's May 7th. On May 9th, they interview Damien again, and he mentions that one of the victims had injuries to his genitals. And it's unclear whether he said this as oh, they probably did, or if he said it as a confident statement. I mean, he didn't just come out and say oh, and one of the victims definitely was injured.
He was probably led there.
Yeah, they were asking him questions, and they said how do you think that they were, what kind of injuries do you think they had? And I'm sure they were asking him too, because he had an interest in the occult and because they thought that was tied together. Mm-hmm. Oh, if this was an occult-related murder, what kind of injuries do you think this child would have? But, of course, they have on record him saying one of the victims was probably injured in his genitals. And so police saw this as incriminating. But other than that, they didn't have anything that they could actually arrest him on.
I mean, also, when you told me the first boy was found hog-tied and naked... Mm-hmm. I was even anticipating the next thing to come out of your mouth say, and there was some sort of genital mutilation, or there was obvious signs of sexual assault. I was just expecting it because that's what obviously would come next.
Yeah, because you don't really...
Does that mean I'm guilty?
Probably, I mean... Okay, so that's May 9th.
Can't even go upstairs without taking a nap, but sure, I can... wrestle, hog tie, and mutilate a 8-year-old.
Well, you know what? You did tell me that you wear those braces on your wrists at night, so actually I take it back.
Yeah, obviously.
Incapable of doing anything.
Would make it
Can't
impossible.
tie knots with those. So, on May 17th, there were 2 boys named Chris Morgan and Brian Holland who were arrested in Oceanside, California. These were West Memphis boys who had abruptly moved to Oceanside 4 days after the bodies of the 3 boys had been discovered. Both of them had a history of drug-related offenses. Chris used to drive an ice cream truck, and so police thought, oh, he's familiar with children. They were both given a polygraph while in custody, and both showed deception when questioned about the murders. And then Chris admitted that he had a long history of drug and alcohol abuse, along with blackouts and memory loss. And at one point, he said it was possible that he had blacked out and committed the murders and had no memory of it.
Does he also have epilepsy? Or...
Unclear.
In his drug use, does that include prescription medication for epilepsy?
Unclear.
Because, see, that's where I would have gone. If you're finding medicine in a victim's system
Yeah.
that is not prescribed to them.
Find someone.
First person I want to do is find people who do take this medicine.
Yeah. Well, Chris, like, almost immediately recanted this and was like, oop, never mind. I pretend I didn't say that.
Oh, gosh.
And that evidence was barred from admission. Police collected blood and urine samples from them. It appears that the West Memphis Police Department did not...
Lost that, too.
I don't know if they tested it, but, like, they didn't really investigate them any further. And I think it's because they thought that they're like, yes, we have sort of a confession. And then it fell apart. And so they're like, well, never mind. So almost a month goes by and police haven't really turned up anything significant, but they still really like Damien for the crimes. So they begin to look at his circle of friends.
And I like ice cream for breakfast, but that don't mean it's right. Actually, for me right now, it is right.
It is.
It's been good. I haven't had ice cream for breakfast. I did have cookies for breakfast, though.
I mean, I had pancakes for breakfast, which is basically the same thing.
There's no food, and I wasn't in the ability to cook anything, so.
You weren't in the ability to cook anything?
I'm not in the ability to use my brains right now. But as bad as my brain function is right now, I'd still do better, make better choices than these police officers.
Yeah,
Dang.
it's... Ugh. So, according to the West Memphis 3 documentary, the Discovery Plus one, Officer Driver tried to get Damien's social circle to fit into a theory for the crime. So, which that is backwards.
That's not how you do it.
You're supposed to figure out the crime first. Mm-hmm. But he didn't do that. So they looked at Damien's best friend, whose name was Jason Baldwin. Jason was 16. And although Jason had previously been arrested for vandalism, he was actually a really good student in school. He hadn't dropped out. He got high grades, and a teacher had even encouraged him to study graphic design in college because of his talents for drawing. Jason says that him and Damien became friends when they bonded over skateboarding, which is, to me, adorable. They also had similar tastes in music and clothes, and they shared a, quote, distaste for the prevailing cultural climate of West Memphis, situated in the Bible Belt. And I just wrote, same.
Right, yeah. Second that. Yeah. Also, I'm just like, these are the boys that I had crushes on in high school.
Right?
The, like, dark, broody emo kids. On their skateboards. Like, these were the kids that I liked.
Yeah. Jason has this really great 90s mullet going on, which they make him cut off for, like, the court stuff. And then he looks like a little baby because it's just young. Damien reminds me of our friend John Brown, who did the music for, he did our
intro.
Our intro music. He's like Jarek's best friend down here. And... And John, I don't think he listens, but I mean this in the best way ever. But John, if you ever met him, is covered head to toe in tattoos. He's got long hair. He's got, big ear gauges. But he's, like, the sweetest guy you'll ever meet. I mean, he's into some weird stuff. But, like, weird music that, like, I don't like. But he's not, like, a Satanist.
Not that that's weird.
No,
it's just
but...
outside the norm. And that's the thing is that, like... Just because it's different doesn't mean it's wrong or weird or whatever, anything like that. Like, kind of reminds me of my friend Dan, who looks totally normal and doesn't have any tattoos, no piercings, anything. Yeah. He just looks like a nice, like, normal, completely whatever, bland guy. And then you start talking to him, and he's talking about tentacle porn and stuff. Like, yeah, sure. And just other, random stuff like celebrating Krampus. He's also a pharmacist.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he's a very, very smart guy, and recently switched from working at retail pharmacy to the state mental hospital.
Oh,
he works in the pharmacy there. And of course, like, the big joke for everyone was like, oh, better be careful. They might not let you out. They might get you confused with one of the patients.
Aww.
But he's like the opposite of John in that way, I guess, because he doesn't have a look of a weird person.
Yeah.
But he is a weird person, and that's why we love him so much.
Yeah. And, like, honestly, John's not really that weird. He just, comes off as very, like, different looking, but he's genuinely, like, I'm so glad him and Jarek are friends. Like, he's the sweetest, nicest person you'll ever meet.
But heaven forbid he goes against society's norms and expectations.
Yeah, good grief. And then, and Jason, so they interview Jason in the West Memphis 3 documentary. Mm-hmm. Spoiler alert. I mean, he's still kind of, like, eccentric today, but, like, he was like, we were just, like, he's like, I saw him skateboarding one day, and I thought it was really cool, and I asked him, like, if he could do any tricks, and he showed me one, and then we became best friends. And I'm like, that's the cutest story I've ever heard.
That's just how friends work.
That's how friendship works. Okay.
I'm going to ask Dan to be the Critter's demon father. Instead of a godfather, the demon father.
I love that. Okay, so police also returned to Vicky Hutchinson. Remember her from the beginning?
Yeah.
Her weird little son.
Wild child, just decided to drop a big bomb about knowing those boys were murdered.
So,
and not that they were murdered, but where.
Yes.
And this was before they'd even been found, right?
Yes.
They were still missing at this point.
So they're like, hey, those bodies turned up like pretty close to where this weird disruptive kid said they would. So they talked to Aaron some more.
Maybe we should talk to that kid.
And Aaron, mind you, is 8. And he tells police, he saw the murders happen. And they were done by a Satanist who spoke Spanish. And I don't know how he described this, but I feel it's very unlikely that an 8-year-old knew the word Satanist. So I just assume he, I don't know, described something weird. But then
I don't know if I would have known Satanist, but, devil worshiper I knew.
Yeah, I don't know. When I was 8?
Yeah, because I told you, I remember my mom would, our cat used to go out and run the roads every night. Mm-hmm. But on Halloween, he was not allowed to go out. He had to stay in the house all night.
Well, I don't know. So Aaron's like, yeah, this Satanist who spoke Spanish murdered these boys. And I saw the whole thing. And then everything else he says is wildly inconsistent.
It sounds like an 8-year-old boy who just needs or wants attention.
Yeah.
Klepto mom is too busy getting arrested.
In the documentary, it says that Vicky approached the police about helping with the investigation. In other accounts, I saw that they approached her. Either way, she was acquainted with a boy named Jesse Miskelly, who was 17, and he knew both Damien and Jason.
Why is this adult woman acquainted with a 17-year-old boy?
Right, so...
when she only has an 8-year-old boy? Unless the 17-year-old boy is, the babysitter or something?
So he acts as a babysitter sometimes.
Okay.
He also...
That's acceptable.
I think he also sometimes does, home repair stuff. He's, her handyman, kind of. He is a high school dropout.
Mows the lawn kind of stuff.
Yeah. He's also a high school dropout. He was known to get into fights at school. And he only had an IQ of 72. And they said he was at about a 3rd grade reading level. He was in,
impressive that he got to high school, though.
I know. He was in special ed classes.
Okay.
All that stuff.
So I have to say, that says a lot about the Arkansas school system. I don't know what it says, but it says a lot.
Yeah.
Either there was a lot of support, or no support, and they just passed everyone.
Yeah. So on June 1st, Vicky agrees to put some hidden microphones in her house and invite Damien over. And according to Wikipedia, Jessie then introduced Vicky to Damien, but she's going to contradict that later.
Well, I'm confused. Jessie is the high school dropout 17-year-old that she's acquainted with, sometimes a babysitter or something. Mm-hmm. But she's never met Damien, and yet she invites Damien to her house.
Yes, so she gets Jessie. Jessie is her connection to Damien. So she gets Jessie to introduce her and Damien, and I have no idea under what
pretense.
But the police told her to put out, quote, demon books on her coffee table for this visit to, because I guess so Damien would see them and be like, oh, you like demons too? Cool. Let's talk about how we murder kids. So Damien comes over and he talks to Vicky and he says, I think the police are targeting me because I'm weird. I didn't have anything to do with the murders. I think they just think I'm weird. And so,
You're not weird, Damien. You're just not the quarterback of the football team.
So nothing incriminating came of it, but...
well, no, because he's just a kid.
But, so Vicky is nothing, there was nothing incriminating said, but then police were like, Oh, the audio was inaudible. You couldn't hear any of it. So then the next day, Vicky goes to police and she says, oh, actually, 2 weeks after the boys had been murdered, I went to a Wiccan gathering with Jesse and Damien. Remember, a day ago, she was like, I've never met Damien. I need to be introduced to him.
Okay, I'm seeing where her son's getting this whole attention-seeking.
Yeah. So
side from.
She says that she goes to this Wiccan gathering, that there had been I said not her words necessarily, but the words they chose in the West Memphis 3 documentary. There had been a lot of, quote, sexy chanting. And
so she went to an orgy?
And, yep, that people started taking their clothes off. And she said that Damien had drunkenly bragged about committing the murders, and she got scared while she was there and asked Damien to take her home, and he did. Meanwhile, her son Aaron is shown, I guess, a lineup or like a photo array of people, and could not pick out Damien, Jason, or Jesse, even though Jesse was his babysitter. Like, okay, you obviously know one of these people.
God, this family is the biggest waste of investigators' time ever.
So, police decide, all right, so we've looked at Damien, we've looked at Jason, let's look at Jesse. So on June 3rd, they bring Jesse in for questioning. Even though he is underage, he is questioned without a parent.
No advocate, I'm sure.
Yeah, again, like IQ of 72.
Yeah.
He is questioned for nearly...
Like, even if he was an adult, he would still need an advocate.
Yeah. He's questioned for nearly 12 hours.
Oh my God.
Only 46 minutes were recorded. During his time with the police, he agrees to a polygraph, and after he takes it, the police or whoever is administering the test says that he failed it. And finally, after 12 hours, and once they turn the recorder on, they get a quote-unquote confession out of Jesse.
They just want someone for the murder. They don't even care who it is.
Well, and this is very much like if you watch Making a Murderer and the Brendan Dassey confession. This is that. Like, this kid doesn't understand, A, what's going on. And, like, he's been questioned for 12 hours and the police are, like, really coercing him and asking extremely leading questions. And then, like, getting him to say what they want him to say. So, according to his confession, him, Damien, and Jason were all in a cult. They liked to go into the woods at Robin Hood Hills and kill dogs and have orgies with girls. And on May 5th, they saw Stevie, Christopher, and Michael while they were out, and Damien called them over. And then Damien hit Christopher on the head and then began to sexually assault him. And then Jason hit Stevie and did the same thing. And then Michael started to run away, but Jesse caught him and waited for the others to come. So according to Jesse, he himself didn't do any of the stuff, but he saw Jason and Damien do it. So that same day, police arrest Damien, Jason, and Jesse and charge all 3 of them with 3 counts of capital murder. And on June 4th, at a press conference, Gary Gitchell, who is the chief inspector of the West Memphis Police Department, announced that they had 3 suspects in custody, and when asked about his confidence in the state's case against the suspects on a scale of 1 to 10, he told them 11.
Well, he's fired in my book.
Yeah. That is where we're going to end part 1.
Excellent.
So...
had it with these morons.
Yeah, get ready to just be really pissed off in part 2, because it's just... Yeah, so thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next week with part 2. Get ready, again, to be super mad. And we're gonna get some cake. Some more cake.
Bye.
Bye.